everybody. What's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking? On your Thursday night, we've got a big special episode of Uncle Rico coming up at 8 p.m. on the Eastern time zone. So we will be out of here on the dot at the top of, well, not this hour, but the next hour, because there's still a minute left of this hour. And I like to be precise. Hey, let me tell you about the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster today. But before I do, let's get to our chat room and see all the fine people that are here. James Stone, Ronald Bateman, he has been to the condo for Bushmills. Joker is here with us. Sven Dunkel, as always. Let's see here. Fishman is with us. The Kahuna. That's not a show without him. Toby McGroby is here. People saying hi to each other. It's always a cheerful chat room. We love a cheerful chat room. Sunday Jenna is here. She says, hey, Tom Golly. And that's me. Good to see you, Jenna, as always. And then she says hi to everybody else. So, you know, if you want to, you can go. Well, let's see. Karen Garvey's here. Says hello, Tom, and fellow chatters. That's in her, you know, secret identity as Dupa Do. SG Fanboy is here. Saw him earlier in a chat room. He said they call him Mr. Lucky because he gets to catch the Tom Gully show. Well, that's the best compliment I've received in quite some time. And people saying hi to each other. So that's always cool. You know, we'd love it if you could like, share, and subscribe. Don't cost you nothing. You know, all you got to do is hit that like button. Of course, YouTube is the preferred way to watch the Tom Gully show. And, you know, we like it when you go there. We're on our road to monetization. I am almost. But it is conceivable, although not, you know, a sure thing, that we could reach 2,400 hours on our march to 3,000 at the end of this week. Just saying. So with that in mind, you can go to the TomGullyShow.com. There you'll find about 270 podcasts on a wide variety of subjects. Bound to be something there that could pique your interest. And then you can also go to our store there, or you can just go to cafepress.com/Tom Gully Show. You can find mugs like these two beautiful mugs, or t-shirts or other things that, you know, have the logo on them. And then also, if you would like to, and we would love it if you would, because we are not monetized and we make very little money from very generous people. However, at paypal.me/Tom Gully Show, we'd love that to happen this week. That'd be so great. That'd be just a vote of confidence. It's really what it is. And then you can go to our Patreon, where you'll find, for $3 a month, the things that I'm too scared to put out on the open internet. I'm terrified, as a matter of fact. People saying hi to each other. I'll let that one linger on the screen a little longer. Let's see here. I'm here in my secret persona, but I can't share anyway, says Sven. Sorry to hear that, Sven. And then there's our good friend RJ Kelly, who is a famous jockey, rides horses in Australia. The chef is here. He is a bona fide chef, and his crew as well. So hello, everybody there in Union Station, making delicious food for people. Folks saying hi to each other, and Lyndon is here. So I think, you know, we're going to get this hip-hop party started in just a second. I've got my Arsenal jersey, yet another Arsenal jersey on. It's what they call the yellows. When Arsenal plays a team that has red, they have to wear a different color. Usually it's yellow, and we've won a big bunch of famous matches wearing the yellows. Let's see here. Wild Bill is here. He says, heyo. And Sven Dunkel, I already did that one. I'm trying to get up here to Brett Hollywood. There he goes. What's going on here? Brett Hollywood made me spit. Somebody on the Blunder Years was saying that they keep making comments and donating and they never get noticed, so they're out. And then Brett immediately follows up with, I've never paid them a cent, yet I'm the darling of the chat room or something. It was awesome. Aku says, war criminal from north of the border checking in. Is that, are you talking about Canada? Oh, Canada. I could, because if you are, then I can tell some of my stories when I lived in Toronto someday. Pegleg Beiser says, it sounds like this show is going to be a disaster. Tragically, it will be. What's up, Lyndon? What's all this brouhaha? I had a boss who I was supposed to make an appearance somewhere at a big station event, and I didn't show up. And I came in Monday to apologize, and he goes, no, I knew it was some big brouhaha, because he had met my girlfriend. Brett Hollywood's laughing about his ridiculing another person in the chat room, and just more saying hi to people. Okay, so yep, you are in Canada. Well, if you could, you have a spare few loonies laying around, it is paypal.me/Tom Gully Show. Some people have been very kind, and we're hoping for more kindness, for a lot more kindness, as a matter of fact. I'm just trying to get a little every month that will allow me to quit the thing I'm doing and do a couple other things. That's all. It's a long story. At any rate, I think our room's full enough now. Let me tell you about the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. Now, behind me in actual space is the crew of the Columbia. You know, there's no gravity, so they made this cool picture there with them all floating. And there we go. There we go. Let me get my thing open here, and I will start telling you about this. The space shuttles were a unique concept in American space exploration because they were reusable. Before that, none of this stuff was reusable. So it's partially reusable, sort of, but really what they call the orbiter, the thing that we, normal people, consider the space shuttle, that's reusable. Now, this particular space shuttle, the Columbia, flew for the first time in 1981. Let me see here, which means this thing was 22 years old when the disaster occurred. And it basically didn't go to the moon or anything. It just went into orbit, and it conducted what they call in-orbit research, okay? Which is, you know, there were things they would do for private companies, you know, as well as scientific experiments and things like that, military experiments. They had scientific payloads. And the orbiter would have the crew and the payload, the external tank, which is that big orange thing that you see there, and then two solid rocket boosters. One of them you can see is white. It looks like a rocket, and it's attached to one side. You can just barely see the other side of it in the photo that I have up now. The orbiter was reusable, and it was winged, and it launched straight up with that external tank and the two rocket boosters, and then it landed as a glider. Incidentally, many of the pilots that landed the various space shuttle missions have commented that flying and landing the space shuttle was like trying to fly and land a brick. It was not super easy to land. So 5 operational orbiters were built for the space shuttle program, and Columbia was the first space-rated orbital constructed following an atmospheric test vehicle, which was the Enterprise. The orbiter contained the crew compartment, and that's where the crew lived and worked during the mission. 3 engines were on the actual space shuttle itself, and they were mounted at the very back of the orbiter, and they actually did provide some thrust during the launch. Once they were in space, the crew maneuvered around using two smaller mounted, what they call OMS, orbital maneuvering system engines. Now, the orbiter, and this is very, very important, the orbiter was protected from heat during re-entry by the thermal protection system. And this was a thermal soaking protective layer around the orbiter. Now, see, when you come back into atmosphere, you are traveling at an incredible rate of speed. And when you hit the atmosphere, it generates extreme heat. The Columbia was a direct contrast from previous UF spacecraft because those aircraft had used sort of things that would repel or deflect heat. And this one would soak it. It would sort of absorb the heat rather than trying to deflect it. And during re-entry, this thermal protective system would basically be hit with temperatures of about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But it had to keep the skin of the orbiter beneath 180 degrees, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry. It's Celsius to Fahrenheit computations in my little head here. The TPS consisted of 4 subsystems. The nose cone and the leading edges of the wings were the places that got the most heat. So they were protected by reinforced carbon. And there were various upgrades they made to it because this thing went on numerous missions. So the underside of the orbiter was protected with black, high-temperature, reusable surface insulation. Okay? Areas on the upper parts of the orbiter were covered with white, low-temperature, reusable surface insulation, which provided protections at temperatures below about 1,200 degrees. The payload bay doors and parts of the upper wing surfaces were recovered with stuff too, but they, for temperatures about 700 degrees. The big thing is that you need to realize the space shuttle was constructed with this TPS, thermal protection system, in a way that they were aware, because they were scientists, of which areas of the orbiter, the space shuttle, would need the most protection and which areas didn't need as much protection. And they built it that way. They were smart about it. 2 solid rocket boosters on the side were connected to the external tank, and they burned for the first 2 minutes of the flight, which are super important because that's when you're going from zero and thrusting to try to get out of Earth's atmosphere, at which point you're in zero gravity and you don't need as much thrust. Those 2 things separated from the external tank. That external tank was nothing but fuel. Okay? So once they expended their fuel, those 2 side rocket boosters would just detach and fall into the Atlantic Ocean under a parachute. And then the NASA retrieval teams would actually go get those, and they would take them to the Kennedy Space Center, take them apart. Anything that was reusable, they would save it and use it for another flight. Now, when the space shuttle launched, all these things were connected. The ET was a tank for liquid hydrogen and had to be stored at negative 423 degrees Fahrenheit because, as you may or may not know, liquid gas, hydrogen being a gas, is nearly always in an extreme cold temperature. Okay? And this external tank, due to its very, very, very cold temperature, was covered with an insulating foam, not to keep it from getting warm, but to keep things inside staying cool. Okay? So that external tank was connected by 2 little umbilical cords. And it fueled the rockets. After the fuel had been expended, the external tank would separate from the orbiter and re-enter the atmosphere, where it would just break apart and the pieces would land in the Indian or the Pacific Ocean. Now, this is tough because, this was obviously a major tragedy and it's a very sad thing that happened. But the thing that, thank you, StreamYard, the thing that eventually happened was not unforeseen. During the design of the space shuttle, a requirement of that external tank was that it would not separate any debris that could possibly touch or damage the thermal protective system, because you're moving at such an extreme speed that even a small piece of debris could do quite a lot of damage. So the integrity of the protective system was critical, okay? On the very first flight of the space shuttle, in fact, the Columbia was damaged during its launch by what they call a foam strike. Now, these foam strikes occurred regularly during space shuttle launches. Of the 79 space shuttle missions, with available imagery they had, and they had quite a lot of cameras on these things, foam strikes occurred in 65 of them, okay? And the visual I'm showing you now is the side of that big, giant orange external tank and some things that just weren't part of sort of the smooth outer design of it, okay? But these things are all sort of covered in foam. Now, the bipod struts and the jack pads, standoff closeouts, and all that stuff on the right, that's that umbilical cord I was talking about and some of the stabilizing that went on, the bipod ramp and all that. The bipod ramp is covered in foam, but if you look to the left of the diagram where it says bipod ramp minus Y left hand, and intertank liquid and hydrogen tank flange closeout. Okay, that's actually covered in foam. It may not look like it, but it is. The thing that says bipod ramp negative Y left hand, yeah, that's a point of contention as we move forward here, because it's just tough to talk about it. I could go through some of the history of this. A 4 by 5 by 12 inch chunk of bipod ramp foam broke away during an 11-day space shuttle mission flown by Atlantis to the International Space Station, and it created a dent 4 inches wide and 3 inches deep. And it was kind of glossed over by some people on the NASA team that reviews those things. So there's other incidences of these foam strikes. So all the missions were named, for lack of a better, if you're interested, the mission in question that we're going to talk about today was STS-107. And they carried the Spacehab Research Double Module, the Orbital Acceleration Research Equipment, and an Extender Duration Orbiter Pallet. And the mission passed all the pre-launch certifications, and they began with the launch. Supposed to launch on January 11th, 2001, but it was delayed 13 times until its launch over 2 years later on January the 16th, 2003. Now, they had selected the team in July of 2000. And let me just get this photo up of these very brave and very talented people. I mean, very brave and very talented people. These are the best of the best of the best. You don't get to fly into space unless you are just the cream of the crop. And mission was commanded by Rick Husband, who was a colonel in the U.S. Air Force and a test pilot. He is the second person from the left. He had previously flown another space shuttle mission. The mission's pilot, the guy that would navigate the actual orbiter, was U.S. Navy Commander William McCool, who was on his very first flight. He is the person second from the right. The payload commander was Michael Anderson, a U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel who had previously flown on another space shuttle flight. He is the person to the far left in the back row of the picture. Excuse me. Kalpana Chawla served as the flight engineer. She also had been on a previous mission. She is dead center of this photograph. David Brown and Laurel Clark were both Navy captains, and they flew as mission specialists on their first flight into space. Let me see here. Clark is the third person from the left. And let's see here. Ilan Ramon, a colonel in the Israeli Air Force and the first Israeli astronaut, flew as a payload specialist. And he is on the far right of the photo. Now, Columbia launched from the Kennedy Space Center launch complex. Hold on. Man. At 10:39 on that day, sorry, and at about 81 seconds into the flight, a piece of foam broke off from the left bipod of the external tank. I'm going to share a screen with you now, and I am going to show you that actually happening. This was 81 seconds into the flight, and they did not notice this until the space shuttle had been in the air for 2 days, because it is so minor. Let me just make myself teeny tiny here so that you, like Vince the lawyer, so you can get a better picture of it. There you go. You see that thing coming off and boom, hitting. Boom. This is on a loop, so boom, hitting, boom, hitting, boom, hitting. There you go. That's actually what happened, okay? And that happened, as I said, 81 seconds into the flight. Now, let me get rid of this screen for you. There you go. Sorry, it's the only, it's the best looping picture that I could find of that particular incident. So it struck the panels on the left wing at a relative velocity of about 625 to 840 feet per second, which is 426 to 573 miles an hour. The foam's sort of construction, the make of it, what they call the ballistic coefficient, caused it to lose speed immediately after separating, and the orbiter just got nailed to it. Now, like as I mentioned, nobody noticed this, not the mission control nor ground crew noticed the debris strike at that time. Rocket boosters separated, roughly 40 seconds later, followed by the external tank separation long later, like 7.5 minutes later, 5.5 minutes later, 6.5 minutes later. The ET separation was photographed and recorded by people on the space shuttle, but they did not record the bipod, that piece on the external tank missing any foam. And at 43 minutes into the mission, Columbia completed its, orbit. They got into orbit and they were fine. Now, after they entered orbit, this NASA group called the Photo Working Group conducted a routine review of videos of the launch. And they did not notice this debris strike until the second day of the mission. None of the cameras that recorded the launch had a clear view of the debris striking the wing, and so they were unable to determine what kind of damage had been sustained with that foam strike. That group decided to request orbit pictures of the Columbia's wing so they could check out the damage. And after receiving notification of this debris strike, Engineers at NASA and other people who had helped with the construction of the space shuttle began working to determine the damage to the shuttle, to the orbiter. The photo working group believed that the orbiter's tiles were possibly damaged, those tiles that protected it from heat. And NASA program managers, who after all had seen many, many, many foam strikes, were less concerned about the danger of the debris strikes. They brought some analysts in from Boeing, and they tried to do a simulation of the debris strike and what it might have done to the thermal protection system. They predicted that the damage was deeper than the thickness of the tiles on the orbiter. And that indicated that the orbiter's skin, which was made of aluminum, would be unprotected there. And the debris assessment team dismissed this as inaccurate due to all the other foam strikes they'd had. They're like, this happens all the time. We don't think your prediction is going to come true. Software, they used computer simulation software, predicted only one of 15 scenarios that damage that was severe enough would, cause a problem. So all this is going out, behind the scenes, down on the ground, and Columbia just keeps doing what it was there to do. They've got a mission commander, they've got a pilot, they've got mission specialists, a payload. They're busy. They're doing stuff. Okay? Now, throughout the flight, the mission management team was not concerned. The debris assessment team was. So, whatever. They went through all this, and at the end, the debris assessment team concluded there was no safety concerns from the debris strike. The team report was critical of the mission management team. The day before the Columbia re-entered the atmosphere, the Launch Integration Office, it's NASA, they've got 1 million teams and offices, said concerns of the safety crew were not even discussed. They just said, that happens all the time. So then they decide that they're going to re-enter. Here, by the way, is the crew upon re-entry. This is the crew. Thank you, StreamYard. And this is actual video. They have actual video of this, and they have the actual audio. They have audio of everything. And I could have played some of it here, but I chose not to. It's not that remarkable. These guys were super professional. And even when systems start to fail and things start to go wrong, they're not screaming and yelling. They're very cool, calm, collected. We have the last video that they returned. We have everything. Okay. So that's them during re-entry. Columbia was scheduled to re-enter the atmosphere and land on February 1st, 2003. And the crew stowed loose items and prepared their equipment for re-entry. Okay. So 45 minutes before what they call the de-orbit burn, that's when they're leaving orbit. They got their engines fired, and they're going through that part of the atmosphere that's going to really ramp up the heat on the external skin of the space shuttle. Husband and McCool, who's the mission commander and the pilot, begin working through the entry checklist. Any of you who have seen the movie Apollo 13 know, man, NASA loves them some checklists, almost just like pilots on a commercial airline do. At 8:10 a.m., the capsule communicator, Charlie Hobaugh, informed the crew they were approved to conduct the de-orbit burn. At 8:15, the crew successfully executed the de-orbit burn, which lasted 2 minutes and 38 seconds. So they fired their engines. They've got that gone. They burned. They've used the engines to get that speed and that direction they need to re-enter the atmosphere. At 8:44, Columbia re-entered the atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet. At a point that's called the entry interface. The damage to the thermal protection system on the orbiter's left wing allowed for hot air to enter and begin melting the aluminum structure. 4.5 minutes after the entry interface, that point where they're going to re-enter the atmosphere, a sensor began recording greater than normal amounts of strain on the left wing. The sensor's data was recorded to internal storage and not transmitted to the crew or to the ground controllers. Probably couldn't have done anything at that point anyway, but it just wasn't. The orbiter began to turn. It's what's called yaw. It's not turn like you turn in a circle. It's just that its angle is off to the left as a result of the increased drag on the left wing. So if I'm flying and my left wing starts to drag, I'm going to be turning this way. Yeah, wasn't noticed, not by the crew or mission control, because of corrections from the orbiter's flight control system. It's a computerized system. That drag starts to happen, it just corrects it. Nobody's aware of it. This was followed by sensors in the left wheel well reporting a rise in temperature as well. At 8:53, Columbia crossed over the California coast. It was traveling at Mach 23 at an altitude of 231,600 feet, and the temperature of its wings, leading edge, was estimated to be about 1,500 degrees. Soon after it entered California airspace, the orbiter shed several pieces of debris, and this was observed on the ground. If you've ever seen video of this, the video always has that orbiter, the space shuttle, streaking through the sky and little pieces of white hot things coming off of it. That's what's starting to happen. The mission control on the ground officer reported that the hydraulic sensors in the left wing had readings below the sensor's minimum detection thresholds. Columbia continued its reentry and traveled over Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, and Texas, where observers would begin reporting signs of debris being shed off of the space shuttle. At 8:58, the orbiter's aileron trim, aileron's just a substance. It's, it's one of the flight controls. An aileron is a flight control surface that helps control navigation. It changed from the predicted values because of the increasing drag caused by the left wing damage. At 8:58, a little later, about 20 seconds later, the orbiter shed a TPS tile, a whole tile, that would later land in Littlefield, Texas, and it would become the westernmost piece of recovered debris. The rest of the debris would be recovered, would be east of there. The crew first received an indication of a problem just about 20 seconds after that tile flew off, when the backup flight software monitor began displaying fault messages for a loss of pressure in the tires of the left landing gear. The pilot and commander then received indications that the status of the left landing gear was not known, as different sensors reported the gear was down and locked or in a stowed position. The drag of the left wing just continues to make the yaw, the angle of the orbiter, go to the left until it could no longer be corrected by the computer. And at that point, the orbiter's reaction control system thrusters begin firing continuously to correct its orientation. So basically, all the built-in systems of the space shuttle were all going, hey, we're dragging to the left, we're dragging to the left. That reaction control system, it's normally used in spurts. No, it was full on trying to correct that yaw. The loss of signal from Columbia happened, about a minute after that tile flew off. Mission control stopped receiving information from the orbiter at this time, and the last call, the commander's last call of Roger, because they were talking with mission control about all these things that were going wrong during that minute, was cut off in mid-transmission. One of the channels in the flight software was bypassed as a result of a failed wire, and the master alarm began sounding on the flight deck. Loss of control in the orbiter is estimated to have begun several seconds later with the loss of hydraulic pressure. and an uncontrolled pitch up maneuver. They clearly were having so many problems with that left wing that they were out of control, and they're trying to pitch up, which generally will slow the speed of an aircraft. The orbiter began flying in a ballistic trajectory, which is significantly steeper and more drag than the previous gliding trajectory, which also indicates the need for the pitch up. They're going more down than they want to, which is going to make you go way faster. And of course, you're going to be short of your desired landing spot. The orbiter, still traveling faster than Mach 15, entered into a flat spin of about 30 to 40 degrees per second. So now it's just flat and it's spinning. The acceleration that the crew is experiencing increased from approximately 0.8 Gs to 3 Gs, which probably would have caused some dizziness and some disorientation, but they wouldn't have blacked out or anything. The autopilot was switched to manual control and reset to automatic mode about 2 minutes, I guess, a minute and a half after that tile came off. And this would have required either Husband or McCool, the mission commander, or the pilot, indicating they were still conscious and able to perform functions at that time. All hydraulic pressure was lost at that time, and McCool's final switch configurations indicate he had tried to restore the hydraulic systems about 2 seconds after the flight controls were set to manual. About 13 seconds after they tried to restore the hydraulic systems, or after what is likely the last actual commands that they were giving, the orbiter began a catastrophic breakup, and all onboard data transmission stopped. This would be one of the photos of about this time. Obviously, it's not a very high-res photo or anything, but you can see that things are coming off of the space shuttle at that time. Ground observers noticed a sudden increase in debris being shed, and all onboard systems lost the power. About 7 seconds after the breakup, the orbiter's fore and aft sections separated from one another. That separation caused the crew compartment to collide with the interior wall of the fuselage, resulting in a depressurization, of the crew compartment about 32 seconds after the hydraulic systems failed. Pieces of the orbiter continued to break apart into smaller pieces, and within a minute after breakup were too small to be detected by ground-based videos. By 9:35, half an hour, a little over half an hour later, all debris and crew remains were estimated to have impacted the ground. Now, during re-entry, all 7 members of the crew were killed, but the exact time of their deaths could not be determined. The level of acceleration that they were experiencing during this time, during the breakup, the acceleration itself during the breakup was not lethal. The first lethal event the crew experienced was the depressurization of the crew module, which they don't know exactly when that happened, but it didn't happen any later than, let's see here, it's 18, 42, so 41 seconds after the hydraulic went out. The remains of the crew members indicate they all experienced depressurization. Hey. Whoa, that was weird. Thanks, StreamYard. Thank you. Am I still on here? Thanks, StreamYard. Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, so where was I? Crew remains indicated they all experienced depressurization. The helmets have a visor that, when closed, can temporarily protect the crew from depressurization. Some of the crew members had not closed their visors, and one was not wearing a helmet. So that sort of means they weren't aware depressurization was going to occur, or it happened so quickly that they couldn't protect themselves fully. During and after the breakup of the module, the crew, whether they were unconscious or deceased, experienced rotations on all three sides. So they weren't just they were way out of control. Way out of control. The shoulder harnesses were unable to prevent trauma to their upper bodies. The inertial reel system, which drags them back to secure them, failed to do that. So they were only restrained by their lap belts, which means the top part of their bodies would have been thrown about dramatically. The helmets that they wore were not fitted to their heads. So even inside their helmets, they were being thrown about. The neck ring of the helmet may have also been so solid that it acted sort of as like an anchor when they were being thrown around. The physical trauma to these astronauts who couldn't brace themselves, just that, likely could have caused them to, die. They also probably were suffering from extreme thermal effects due to the heat. Hot gas entered the disintegrating crew module and it burned them. Their bodies were kind of protected by their suits, but once the module fell apart, they were exposed to wind blasts, shock waves, and that stripped the suits off of them. Hot gas, molten metal as they fell from the orbiter. As they separated from the module, their bodies entered an environment with almost no oxygen, very low atmospheric pressure, and the high temperatures from the speed they were at. And they hit the ground at just superhuman speeds. The debris was recovered from everywhere. You may have seen news reports back then, I know I did, that had things like this, which was a main part of the engine that landed. This was one of the front engines. It was one of the mounts at the front of the engine that landed. And subsequently, NASA gathered all of the parts that they could and tried to recreate what was going on, much like they do in an airline disaster. But as you can see, there was nothing really defined. Nothing really defined. The final body of a crew member was recovered about 11 days later, and those remains were transported to the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology at Dover Air Force Base. The Texas Army National Guard deployed 300 members to assist with security and recovery. The Gulf Coast Coast Guard strike team was assigned to help cover debris. A lot of people did. Environmental Protection Agency, U.S. Forest Service, everybody sprang into action. This is the largest ever ground search that has ever taken place. And NASA officials also warned of the dangers of handling debris as it could have been contaminated by propellants. And as happened, soon after the accident, some individuals attempted to sell Columbia debris on the internet, including an online auction on eBay. And officials at NASA were critical of these efforts as debris was NASA property and was needed for the investigation. A 3-day amnesty period was offered for the recovery of this stuff. During this time, about 20 individuals contacted NASA to return debris, which included other debris from the Challenger, which we'll cover at another time. At the end of the amnesty period, several individuals were arrested for illegally looting and possession of debris. The flight data recorder was found near Hemphill, Texas, 75 miles southeast of Nacogdoches. Columbia was the first orbiter and had a unique flight data index to record vehicle performance data during test flights. So, it recorded information every 15 minutes prior to re-entry. The tape that recorded it was broken at the time of the crash, but the information from the orbiter sensors could have been recorded beforehand. Several days later, the tape was sent to Imation Corporation to be inspected and cleaned, and the clean tape was sent back to NASA, where it was copied and analyzed. Side note, on March 27th, the Bell 407 helicopter that was being used in the debris search crashed due to a mechanical failure and killed the pilot and a Texas Forest Service aviation specialist and injured 3 other crew members. So, a group of Canor habitatus elegans worms enclosed in aluminum, God, I can't speak today, enclosed in aluminum canisters survived re-entry and impact with ground and were recovered weeks after the disaster. And that culture was part of an experiment to research their growth while consuming synthetic nutrients in space. It was found to be alive. So, on July 11th, 2011, 10 years later, lower water levels caused by a drought revealed a 4-foot diameter piece of debris in Lake Nacogdoches. NASA identified the piece as a power reactant storage and distribution tank. So I could go into much, much more on this. There's a lot of information about it, but we all know what happened. I just explained it to you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story, with about 15 minutes left before a very special episode of Uncle Rico of the Challenger shuttle disaster. Hopefully you've been talking amongst yourselves. I'm going to try to get through as many of these chats as I can. I will skip over or very quickly just display some of the ones that were saying hi to folks. And I will reiterate once again, the TomGullyShow.com, 270 podcasts that you may or may not enjoy. I think you will. There'll be something there that you'll like. You can go to our store on the website, or you can just go to cafepress.com/TomGullyShow, /the Tom Gully Show. We would really appreciate your contributions. We are not monetized. We meaning me and the computer and this pineapple soda. And if you'd like to do that, we'd love it if you did that at paypal.me/Tom Gully Show, or you can go to our Patreon, which has all the stuff I'm way too terrified to put out into the public. And that's in the crawl down there. It's $3 a month. $3 a month. Aku is going to send me a bottle of rye. I don't drink. Are you going to brag about having food again? I don't know that I'm going to have food tonight. I had food earlier. I'm not as hungry. The kahunas being greeted. Why do you even come here? Brett says, I got to get through these. And Elon is struggling to recreate that tech. Man, when he talks about it like he knows what's going on, I visited the Brussels Space Center back then. Give me depression. Sorry to hear that. Hi, Tom. I'm Jerry, age 66 in Delaware. Jerry Lahane, it is good to meet you. Thank you for being here. People saying hi. Let's see. Sven says we're going to send you out to space and burn to a crisp. Okay, that's not fun. I knew the Columbia wasn't coming back in one piece, and the Israeli astronaut betrayed that tone of voice talking to his father. I'm going to skip over a certain person's post. Duck and cover. Sven, thrusting is key. Terry Nee, you're a man after my own heart. How's the wife? Should have had Gorilla Glue. Yeah. What's that other stuff? The white, black, water seal stuff? Flex Seal. Jerry says, so many protective tiles came off, they should have docked, stayed in space, waited for Russian rescue. You know, that's not a bad idea, Jerry. If they had they had the engines. That's if they could get there. That's actually a much better idea. But you know, nobody noticed it, and our 2 space shuttle disasters are really emblematic of the fact that people wouldn't listen. Now, they delayed the takeoff of this particular mission for 2 years. So I'm sure there were a lot of people feeling pressure to let's get this thing up in the air and funding and all that. But much like with the Challenger disaster, there were people that were sounding the warning bell, and then there were a lot of people that just wouldn't listen. And why would you take the chance? Aku says how the Russians fired their rockets is amazing. Basically, they use supersized matches. Well, the Russians like big things. Extraterrestrials working with our military could have rescued them in hours. Yes, the Greys could have come out. Just got here. What's Professor Gully's lecture about today? It's about this big flying thing in the sky. It went on up there out by that big piece of green cheese, man, the moon. Then it come down, and it went all hoogie floppy. Thank you, StreamYard. StreamYard's always trying to help me. How much is the Space Shuttle? Columbia Space Shuttle. The Columbia Shuttle. See, next show, please tell us about Ramstein plane crash. That Ramstein plane crash was a nasty one. We'll do that someday. By the way, hey, Stacey Allen. Hey, Rev. Jerry Lahane says, I designed Mars rovers in 1987. Well, you were on the front end of that. I got to write Ramstein here or I'll forget it. Hey, the other day, I wrote air raid down on my paper, and I now don't remember what that was about because I told you guys I'd do a story, so I wrote it down on the paper, and I don't know what it's about. For a while, Bill's a survivor of Event Horizon. Flex Seal was too late. Flex Seal. Damn you, Cosby. I can't hear anything but his voice. You like to get a jello... 3 inches deep. Stop it, Toby. Dead center is a little insensitive. It is. I was thinking that when I said it. He's on the far right with the Israeli flag patch on his suit. I think it's time for the flying monkeys. I get high enough off the good stuff. Don't need space. There you go. I'm high on life. Think Peach Dream. Stacey Allen says, does anyone find it suspicious that they could land on the moon in 1969, but were never able to make it happen again, even with all our new technology? Well, I don't find it suspicious that happened, Stacey, is because we did land on the moon after 1969. A couple of times. Toby McGrowy says, foam is a misleading word in this case, isn't it? It's not foam like what we find in a cheap couch, I'm assuming. No, it's very thick foam. And Stacey, by the way, I think it makes it all that more amazing that we landed on the moon in 1969. You know? The reason we haven't gone back to the moon is we have no financial interest in it. We don't want to pay for it. Aliens use zero rockets. They use other forms of propulsion. Maybe Oswald was the lone debris shooter. Stacey Allen, they landed a few times on the moon, but the first one was fake and done in a studio. Yeah, right. Nothing to see here. Move on. Nothing to see here, boys. Move on. Show's over. Move it along. From the book suppository. Yes. That never gets old, Wild Bill. Really, it doesn't. Got about 9 minutes. Did the crew graduate from the 37th ranked college in the universe? Well, the rings were not recovered from the crew, so sadly we'll never know. Malcolm Wallace with the CIA guy. Let's see. LBJ's mistress had a son that LBJ paid to keep quiet before CIA killed him. Well, I find that easier to believe than a lot of things. Wonder if they had a check engine light for that. We did a nice halo jump one time from about 400,000 feet. Nice little trip it was. You did not. Let's see here. Matty Brown gave away the Murchison assassin party night before starting Nixon Bush Senior Mafia. Oil and military all joining forces under LBJ who wanted Vietnam War. There's a lot of people that think all those parties came together. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's the Columbia Shuttle. Joe Biden also caused... Hey. We try not to talk politics here. J. Edgar Hoover also joined in, as well as Texas police. No, actually, the Texas police were pretty mad when the FBI came in and stole their investigation. Very mad. And I know that because I talked to some, because I live right here in Dallas, Texas. Love you, love the show, says Boat. Boy, it's good seeing you. Me and you and Turkatron and others need to meet up and have some brisket. Julian Caesar says Captain Jenks pranked Dan Rather during this incident, saying what a poppy to his teeth landed on his property. I heard Leonard Skinner had that same crash. Well, Joker, all you have to do is go to the Tom Gully Show YouTube page, and we've covered the Leonard Skinner disaster in great detail. Jerry Lahane, our new best friend, says Freebird. Wonder if it hit terminal velocity. It most unquestionably hit terminal velocity. Aku says Tom Cruise could have saved him from that flat spin. Well, sadly, no one on the Columbia had Goose's dog tags. So, poor thing was just falling apart. Jerry Lahane said, I ghost wrote for Stern, 93 to 95. Ooh. Stacey Allen says, that looks like a Vince the lawyer. What? Fishman says, I had a girlfriend that blew up when I attempted re-entry once. Very related. You people are filthy. Absolutely filthy. And that's why I like you. Tom Gully Show cares. PayPal.me/Tom Gully Show. Just 3-second freeze. Okay. Thanks, StreamYard. Thank you. Appreciate that. Skip for just 2 seconds. It was 2.5 seconds. It was just after the reorbiter had experienced a... All right. They were having hot flashes. Menopause. So the astronauts were pretty much in a blender. Pretty much. Engine landed. Don't think it had much choice but to land on Earth. Jerry says, I'm in Delaware. Aren't they the hens? The Delaware hens? Get a new mascot. If they hadn't died in the air, sudden stop would have done it for sure. I tend to agree with you. If anyone, and Tom, of course, Thunderfoot does an amazing breakdown of the Challenger and the movie. He even recreated the fire to show how serious it was. There's plenty of people in documentaries that'll go into this greater detail than I will. Tom, with such good stories, you need to go to a 2-hour show. I really do. I'm in Delaware, too. To our Delaware Destroyer fan club out there in Delaware, good to have you. Air raid. You were explaining how school kids... Oh, yes. Nuclear attack. Thank you, Julian Caesar. Thank you. All right, duck and cover here. It's always tough for me to figure out what to do on Fridays because Friday shows are very non-attended. So I have to pick something either I like that nobody else does or, hey, Tom, sorry I'm late. You're never late. Pause. Nobody's ever late to the show. We cover this every single time. I don't know why I have to go over this again. The monsters on the dark side of the moon told us not come back. I hide that. The rings. What happened to the rings? Me precious, me precious. Cool Joker. Jerry has done everything. Yes, he has. Joker. Blue hens, fear them. Oh, yes, the blue hens. State bird. Okay. Jason Bardo is here. We've never seen you before, Jason, but that doesn't mean we don't welcome you with open arms. Thank you. It's very nice to have you here. Maybe you have been in once before. The reason we didn't go out to the moon again was because the moon is fake. It's fake. Get under your desk with chewing gum. Duck and cover. I'm going to be home tomorrow. Prepare for travel. Okay, Sven. I don't know what he thinks. I don't know. Sorry, Tom. I always forget. I got through all of those. We have just about 2 minutes and 50 seconds till we're going to kick you out of here and encourage you to go to the Shuli Network and watch the very special episode of the Uncle Rico Show. I myself will be there. They didn't invite me on the show. Although I have been told by the Reverend Bob Levy himself that I will be appearing on his show, the Levy-verse, Out of the Coffin again. I can't wait. What did we learn today? Well, we learned when you build a space shuttle and one of your chief concerns is debris strikes and what it might do, and when you know for a fact that if one of these tiles gets knocked off or damaged, that 3,000 degrees of heat potentially could affect, it's not going to survive. That's what we know. And you should listen to those people. And no finer mind than Jerry Lahane himself said, why didn't they just go dock? the International Space Station, which, Jerry, by the way, I don't think the space shuttle was maybe they could have made it. I don't know definitely that they could with that level of mission. I suppose, though, they could have sent up another space shuttle and refueled them or done whatever they needed to do to get them to docking and then fixed it. Learn to use good glue. Heck of a show, Tom. We had a heck of a show. It was a heck of a show today. Put my TV to the 8-hour Tom Gully show last night. Terry Nee, you are so awesome, dude. You think I'm just talking. I'm not. When you guys contribute or you do stuff like that, that's man, that is right in here. Right in the old ticker. Peace. A lot of people think the Columbia shuttle disaster was a satanic ritual sacrifice. Just saying. Oh, boy. Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. We've only got 50 seconds left, and I have to get you guys out of here so you can go to Uncle Rico. I don't know why I'm hurrying because I'm going to play 10 minutes of songs. But I will see you folks in that chat room, and I will be making a pizza or something and all of that. Terry Nee is the man. And with all that being said, all of it, till next time, we'll see you next time.